Yeah, yeah. Adam, Beck, can you hear us?
Yes, Commissioner, I can hear you.
Jones, Benoit, can you hear us?
Yes, Commissioner.
Ralph Barnes, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay. And I think Paul just joined us.
This is Paul Jones. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and begin our commission meeting today. And as always, we will open with a prayer, reading our thought, and that has been volunteered by Linda Walton. And we'd like to ask someone from the audience to lead us in the pledge. Is there someone here who would like to do that? Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
First, I would like to read something to everyone. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government. So we're here and we're legitimate. So let's pray together. Our dear Father, we are so grateful for freedom. We are grateful that we can all sit in the same room and disagree with each other and yet shake hands and go home. Father, we are grateful for this beautiful place we live. Utah Valley has to be one of the most gorgeous places on the planet, and yet there are a lot of things going on that are a challenge. And so we pray, Father, that you will be with the leaders, that they will be given wisdom. We pray also for their associates that are doing the research and doing a lot of the legwork, that they will not lose their energy, and that everyone in the room here will be a lady or gentleman as they speak, and that we can all keep in our minds and remember that there have been people that have died for this, to give us freedom. We are so grateful, Father, to have this chance to be with you and with each other. Thank you so much. Amen.
Thank you, Linda.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Karen Turner.
Okay, what we'll do next is we'll go through the consent agenda, and that means we'll review the regular agenda items that we have.
You want to do the work session first?
No, I think we'll skip over that. I should have done this way last week, but we'll go ahead and do the consent first. And that way, those that don't need to be here for their things that were consented, they can leave if they choose to. And then we'll go to the work session. So with that, we'll go ahead and look at agenda items number 1 through 10. Are there any that we want to hold or continue or comment on?
I'd like to continue item number 7 for 2 weeks.
Continue number 7 for 2 weeks. That's June 29th. Okay, if no others. 11 through 20.
I have none.
I've got none.
As a point of reference, number 11, they are going to be using current existing budgets to cover that increase position. 21 then through 27.
I'd like to table item number 27 for closed session.
Do we need to table that since we've already talked about it in closed last week?
Yeah.
I'm not sure why we need to do that. We've had a week to
agree.
talk.
I agree. I think we should.
Because we've all had time to talk to Civil Division about this.
Yes, but we haven't had time to talk with each other with more information possibly.
Okay. Then with that, we will table item 27, which means that that will go into a closed session. And after we come out of closed, then we will come out for further discussion. Are there any closed items just beyond that? Rob,
Just number 28,
28?
yeah, which is the one that would actually be creating anyway in order to have 27 go into closed session.
Okay,
So we can strike items 29, 30, and 31.
That's my understanding, yes.
okay.
Thank you.
So we'll strike 29, 30, and 31. That was quick. All right. Alice, would you please review what we just agreed
You
to?
bet.
Super short.
Okay, I have us continuing item number 7 for 2 weeks, which is June 29th. Tabling 27, and then as far as the closed meetings, we're going to hold as stated, number 28, and striking 29, 30, and 31.
Okay. Then we will go ahead and have public comments before going to close.
We have a work session.
I'm sorry, you're right. We do. Richard, I wasn't ignoring you on purpose. I was just hoping you weren't here.
Hey, I'm happy if you don't want to hear from me, that's good. Richard Nelson, Public Works Director. I was asked to take a look at what we're seeing in cost based last year versus this year. So I've got some kind of general information. I haven't got a specific the projects we're working on, but it kind of overarches into all the different projects we're working on. Some of the things that we've looked at are asphalt costs last year to this year. On average, they're up about 32%. Other ones that are of significance, diesel and gasoline. Diesel, based on April of 21 to June of 22, is up 72%. We actually went from in April of this year, $4.25 to a price today of $4.72. That's our wholesale rack price for diesel. Gasoline is up in that same time frame about 39%. We actually bought a load yesterday at $4.33. That is up from $3.61 in April of this year. So we're seeing a fairly significant increase on fuel. As we look at that, kind of looking at where we are in our 2022 budget, we have $1 million budgeted for fuel across the county. Funnels through my department. That's how it's all billed out to the various departments. Looking at where we are today versus where if we're projecting it out through the rest of the year, if prices hold about where they are right now, we're going to need about another $250,000 to get through the end of the year. If they drop back down, then hopefully we can be okay. If they keep climbing, then we're obviously going to need more than that. We'll look at that a little further if we get into a mid-year budget adjustment, but that is something to just kind of keep on your radar screen. Other materials that we're seeing, road chip oil, road base, building materials, like in the building, sheetrock and wiring and things like that. They are running on average about a little over 21% over last year is where we're kind of sitting with all of those. One that is also to note is vehicles. So we buy a lot of vehicles as the county. We have one of the orders that we have actually just placed is for the Sheriff's Patrol Tahoes. It's a fairly standard item that we buy every year. And we're looking at this year, it's about a 9.4% increase over last year. So that's another cost that's gone up. We're seeing a lot of that across the board. Couple of things that I was also kind of asked to touch on is like our seasonal help. We oftentimes bring folks on during the summertime to help with parks and buildings and grounds, things like that. Last year, we were able to bring folks on for that seasonal help at around $11 an hour. This year, we're up in the $13.50 range, or about a 22% increase to get them here. What that also does is that brings those seasonal, unskilled help in at basically what some of our starting salaries are for some of our folks like in parks or things like that. So that then creates a problem for us that we start getting morale issues with our full-time people, that we're bringing unskilled help on for the same wage that we're paying skilled help. Looking at like our permanent employees, the thing that we're having a challenge with, and I know you've heard this from other departments as well, is actually keeping people here. We've got, in the last 2 months, I think, Glenn, we've had 3 folks in our roads division that have left for other employment, some private sector, some public sector, and we're having a challenge trying to get folks to even apply for those positions just because of the wages that are out there. We had one that came to light yesterday of someone that was looking to go to another public entity, and with where we could top them out at, the other entity was actually starting them out at a higher rate than where we could even top them out if they went to the top of our range. So that's a little bit of a challenge that we're facing as well. When we do get folks that are able to come to work for us, oftentimes we're having to do a jump start, where the beginning salary may be, let's say, $20, but we've got to bump them to 22 or 23 just to get them to come. And oftentimes they're still taking some sort of a cut in pay to come to the county, which they can offset with the benefits and things like that versus on a private sector type job. So we are seeing some challenge that way with trying to keep our staffing up. Overall, our impact on our 2022 budget, I talked to Gina this morning on it. We're seeing increased costs kind of across the board as you look at everything. So this gets into utilities and all the different sorts of things that we're into, somewhere in the 8-10% range. And what we're anticipating is we will still be within our budget with probably the exception of fuel, and we'll just simply cut back on the scope of some of the projects we have. We'll scale those back to stay within that budget amount. But as we look into the 2023 budget, there's some of those projects that would obviously have to roll, and we're anticipating that our budget request for 2023 will probably be approximately 10% higher than what our 2022 budget is. So there's kind of a quick snapshot for you of what we're seeing with more on the construction side of the world, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
So, go ahead.
I was going to say is that thank you, that you're confirming what I see as a personal consumer. Prices of everything is going up, and that is significant. And so is my family who live across the country have to address it. I can see that happening. So thank you for that insight.
So thank you, for those numbers. Not surprising.
Yeah.
We've had
it's a little discouraging, but it's not surprising.
It is discouraging. And then, I think today, the feds went up 0.75, didn't they?
Correct.
That's what I heard was they went up 0.75
That's what the
on there.
headline I seen was.
So that's, there's all these little ripple effects that are taking place. And I know during the budget process and discussions and so forth, you tried to anticipate as best you could with the budget process, knowing that this might possibly happen. So I do applaud that, looking at your budget, at least, because budgets are fluid. They're not just totally stagnant. And looking at yours, you're anticipating the fuel, which was one that we were concerned about, and we put some money away for inflationary purposes.
Correct.
On purpose.
Yep.
Because you can't see into the future as well. And so, some mid-year adjustments are going to be, something that we do on a regular basis. And so I just applaud you for looking at that and seeing what can happen. And it's one of those things too, that even though we do a mid-year budget, we can't really forecast what's going to happen in the fall either. And I think we get that as well. We see it.
You talked about scaling back some of the projects because of increase. Are you going to present those projects to us? Because there may be a time, like Commissioner Lee said, that we did set aside an inflationary fund. There may be a time that we would rather keep the scope the same and just adjust.
And certainly on the bigger projects, yes, we would do that. What I'm looking at mainly is like, say on seal coat on a trail. Instead of doing a mile of trail, maybe we do 3/4 of a mile or something like that. We would still have other work that would happen in a future year, but what we do this year, we may just pull back a little bit. So some of those we probably won't bring to the commission. The bigger projects, yes, we would certainly come in and have that discussion to see if there's avenues to bring additional funding to the table to make them happen.
So with an estimated 8 to 10% increase on your budget, are you thinking that in 2023 then you'll need an 8 to 10% increase in order to just stay flat?
To hold the same level of service of where we are now.
Right. And I think we're estimating that we grow on average at about 3% a year as population. So growth dollars won't make up that difference this year.
Yeah, and we also fully realize that, I mean, the thing about government that's interesting is that there are going to be, you know, with the sales tax increase and so forth to happen, there's growth in that as
Right.
well.
Yep.
It's kind of that, it's the good and the bad.
Right.
Right, that we have with it, which we'll be looking at.
Right. It's not necessarily stable, but it might be a stopgap.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to adjust the budget to meet the inflation.
And with my budgets in my department, you know, we have a variety. You know, as you're aware, we have some that are general fund, some that are TRCC, some that are internal service funds. Roads is obviously from the gas tax, B road money in the fourth quarter cent. So there's a lot of different avenues that are playing in there, and to try to figure out exactly where all those are going to be a year from now, sometimes a little challenging, but we'll try to look at that and see where we think those will go. And as we work with the budget team, we look at those avenues as well.
That triggers a question for me, looking at the gas tax. With the significant increase in fuel costs, have we had any estimates from any economists on if people will be driving less and therefore we will collect less?
But we go
Because
up.
because we don't collect a percentage, we collect.
It's a fixed
that's
amount.
right.
It's a fixed percentage.
Yeah, it's not a
on there.
percentage, it's a fixed amount. And
Yep.
so if people are driving less and then therefore consuming less fuel because fuel costs more, we will collect less,
hit us
which means we'll
negative.
have less money in our roads fund.
Yeah, it'll hit us less.
Yeah, and we'll
No,
still
the-
be able
before-
to adjust the current budget and the revenue stream to adjust for that.
Yeah, but on the roads fund, we can't adjust revenue stream because we would collect less. So maybe that's something that we need to look at.
And with the B road money, there's a lag time from when it's collected till we actually see it of,
Okay,
I don't know, 4 to 6 months or so, Rudy. So, you know, that, I don't see that really affecting this budget year too much,
but next
it very,
year.
very
Right.
well could on
I meant for
2023.
next year.
Yep.
So.
We'll have to look at that because that B road money is only, part of the funding source.
Correct.
And so we'll have to see how
Yep,
significant
the
that is.
fourth quarter is the
Yeah,
other
let's be,
part.
we'll want to definitely be cognizant of that for the 2023 budget.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you, Richard.
thanks.
Okay, thanks, Richard.
Okay, that-
Mr. Chair, if I could I take a moment of personal privilege?
Please, yes.
All right. I'm going to have Catherine Acey come on up. And she's got some information for us. This is good news stuff. This is the fun part. So she's got some information. I know all three of us know about this, but I thought it'd be great to be able to let other people know as well. Go ahead, Catherine.
Well, first of all, I'm going to turn around and smile at this wonderful audience and these wonderful participants and citizens. Okay. My name is Catherine Acey, and I'm the Utah State Regent of the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution. And we focus on historic preservation, which is genealogy, and also buildings and sites. Also, we focus on education, to educate our children on the Constitution, other good things, and a lot of history. The third thing is patriotism, where we work very hard to support our active military and our veterans. Well, we happen to have a very special veteran in this building, in this room at this time. And so, Mr. Edwards, would you like to come up? He's wearing his American Legion shirt, so he's just coming from his volunteer position with the American Legion.
Right behind you.
Can you hear me this way? Do you need this
Well,
recorded?
yeah, we do. Yeah.
Let's get back here. Thank you. I'm sorry. Anyway, the Wasatch Range chapter is here in Provo, and they were very impressed for over the years working with Randy Edwards. He has done incredible work with the veterans particularly, but also with single mothers and many other places of need and people of need. He's been there. He's the one. And so we gave him an award called the DAR Service to Veterans Outstanding Veteran Volunteer. And we gave him that for the city of Provo. We're very proud of him and proud of all the wonderful things that he does. Thank you. So we started here in Provo at the Wasatch Range chapter, and then we took it to the Southwestern Division of 8 states. And lo and behold, they felt that he was the best volunteer for veterans. And what makes him special, he is a veteran. He's got a huge resume of so many things he's done in the active military that I could go on for days and days. And he's shaking his head, but he really does. So lo and behold, he won the Southwestern Division Award. And so I told him, I said, only 4-star generals ever get to the national. I wanted to make sure he wasn't thinking about it at all. So I'm sure he wasn't. And lo and behold, I got a letter that said that he had won the national award. And this is a very big award. It's our highest award for a veteran. And it's called the DAR Service for Veterans Outstanding Volunteer Award, National Award. So in a few weeks, he'll be on a plane going to Washington, D.C., to a building that maybe some of you might know, which is called Constitution Hall. It is across the street from the front lawn of the White House, and is a piece of real estate owned exclusively by women. The address is 1776 D Street. I wonder why. Anyway, so he will be there in a very, very fancy gala with the president's own band. Will be playing music, and it's quite elegant. It's quite the evening. There will be press coverage. There'll be a lot of things going on, and he will receive this special award. At this time, though, I'd love to give him the Southwestern Division Award, and I would hope that you would applaud him for his great efforts. Thank you.
With Randy too. Let's get over right back here. We can sit. That way there's room for all of us.
If I may, I'll accept this on behalf of the state of Utah. It's not something that I did, it's a lot of help from a lot of other people throughout the state of Utah that's been involved in projects that I work with. So this is on behalf of the state of Utah.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah, but if you knew, then it wouldn't have been a surprise.
So I think just surprised you. It was.
Sorry. All right. That's a great highlight. Thank you.
We should do that stuff all the time, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, that was fantastic. So I myself am a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution. I'm a member of the Pony Express chapter out of Lehigh rather than the Wasatch Range chapter out of Provo, but it still is fantastic that our hometown hero has won the national award there.
He's a great man. He reached Sergeant Major in the Army, so he's a significant guy. So with that, I believe we've completed all consent and work session and other items, so it's time for, I believe, public comment now. And then we will go to closed session. So are there any public comments?
General.
General public comment, so open-ended.
Not on an issue?
Not on a particular issue, any issue. General comments.
Carol Ferguson, Springville, Utah, and I'm really not sure what you're saying, so if I'm giving an inappropriate comment, just cut me off. So I wanted to thank Commissioner Sakovic for submitting item 27 for the board's vote to take action necessary for the full discharge of duties of this legislative body in accordance with Utah Code. Thank you, Commissioners, for not compromising on conducting a thorough and honest investigation. It is critical for citizens to have confidence that their
So
elected
Carol,
officials.
if I could, I think that's, we usually take those comments before.
You know, the general comments, it means that basic is open-ended for most people.
I know, but we've typically, just out of, if, general comments other than on our public agenda. And then we've typically had those comments before we actually address, because we're going to go into closed.
Okay, so
And it would be nice to be able to
come
have
back after closed session.
public comments on the agenda item before we talk about the agenda item.
Thank you for making that clear. So I don't finish now. I wait and come back.
Hold it until after we finish.
That's
Okay,
when
thank you.
Yeah.
If they want to do it, yeah.
Any other public general comments other than what's on the agenda? Other than what's on the agenda?
It's not, well, it's on the agenda, but it's not about the agenda item. It's about something concerning the agenda, or, well, I'll just make a comment and then you can tell me if I need to sit down or not. So Aaron Davidson, Lyndon, so on agenda item 20, I have an issue with the document that's attached with agenda item 20, not that what's in the agenda, but if you look online and you look at the document that supports agenda item 20, it is a image file that is so pixelated that you cannot read a good portion of it. So I was trying to read it and you just can't
I've
read
noticed
it.
some of those happen. We have to go back and rescan those.
It'd be nice if you could get the original document and just create a readable file and searchable file of it. It's kind of one of my pet peeves of the things on the website is they're not searchable documents. You have to read the entire document, but it's so pixelated that it's so laborious to read. So I just like to see that kind of changed in the future so that the documents on the files on the website are readable files and searchable.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Do you know, just a quick question, is it typically from one department that's occurring, or is it multiple? I'm wondering, for example, I know that one was uploaded by the health department. I'm wondering if maybe it's an outdated scanner that they have, if we can maybe get to the root cause of that, because I agree that is a valid concern.
It's varied from department to department, not always there, but yeah.
But we can look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other general comments? Okay, well then we will go ahead and move into our closed session at this time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, Ben Benoit, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Commissioner.
Okay. Then we have a motion to bring it back.
Yes. I'll make the motion that we bring back on our regular agenda, item number 27.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. That passes 3-0. On this agenda, I have a statement to be read to the public, and then it's unanimous between the three of us. We went through some extensive discussion and review. It has come to our attention that the document in question has been since March of 2020 been in individual private circulation, but not by a county employee. Therefore, this agenda item is not necessary. If further information comes to our attention and we deem an investigation is necessary, we will act accordingly, either internally or externally and publicly. As such, I move to strike agenda item 27.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 That passes 3-0. The agenda item is struck. Okay. Motion?
Yeah.
Public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment. Do we have a public comment for anyone? Please.
Am I first or?
Yeah, I'm Sylvia Andrew. I'm a citizen. I don't understand why you're not going forward with agenda item 27. We as citizens want to we want to know what is going on between the attorney's office and the sheriff's office. We want to know that as voters, because there's a lot coming out and we need to know that information in order to make an informed vote. And it has to do with county level. In my opinion, if you drop agenda 27, you're abdicating your duty as leaders of our county.
You know what, we normally don't respond, but let me clarify that statement. In public comment, we just don't respond. We just allow the public to make their observations. This has to do with a narrow scope investigation that we had talked about last week. We were not going to get into the ongoing investigations that have been
Well,
started.
a part of my problem with these ongoing investigations is there is gag orders on them with people that are being investigated, so the public cannot find out the truth.
And that's where we'll have to rely on the investigation process.
And it's not right that, I mean, and there's a reason why they're being investigated by the sheriff's office.
And
So they can shut everybody up, so they can get their people in, and it's just not right. We as a public, as a public citizen, need to know these things.
Again, this is a document we were only focused on that's been in circulation since March of 2020. That is 27 months ago.
I'm talking about current investigation
And
with
that's-
regard to what's going on with the attorneys, county attorney, and the sheriff's office.
And that's a separate investigation, which we're not.
Yeah,
part of.
is that on the agenda today?
That is not, that was a separate.
Why aren't you looking into this?
I'm unable to respond anymore because our focus was on a separate, distinct investigation from that other one that you're referring to. We have no role in the other one.
Yeah, you do, because it involves the county and who is running for office. And it's critical that the voters know the truth about what's going on when all these ongoing investigations to hide the truth with gag orders and all kinds of things. We're not getting to the truth, and we need to know the truth as voters. And I live here in the county, and I've lived here a long time, and I'm imploring that we get to the bottom of all this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Carol Ferguson, Springville. From what you've said, what I think I hear you saying is that you did not know until you went into closed session that the document you're referring to had been in circulation and was available to the public since 2020.
That's correct.
Okay. It seems like you would have known that somebody would have said, hey, by the way.
We, as three commissioners, we're not one organization. We're actually three separate organizations, so we can't confer freely as we like. And so someone may collect information that the others are unaware of. And so we're limited as to what we can share until we go into closed session. And then we can come out and present ongoing discussion.
And it's my understanding that the three of you can't meet to discuss something unless it's a public meeting that goes into closed session. Is that the process?
If a closed session is needed, yes.
If a closed session, but you can't confer with each other unless you're at a public meeting. It's
Well, we confer in closed session with legal counsel.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
We can ask how your day is going and things like that. I mean, but not on county business.
Christy Bulkley, how's your day going? So my comment is relatively general and in broad scope. So I would just caution you guys that if more information is made available to you, that just because you've gone through this process once, that you stay as open to it as you are the first time. And I would also just echo that being in the middle of elections right now and having this stuff come up is really terrifying for voters, as you can imagine, especially when you're talking about two positions as important to citizens and to the county as a whole. And so even if this ends up being something that time-wise ends up outside of the primaries, I would say that to be in search of truth is not on a time frame. And so that if this ends up being something that still needs attention in the future, that you would do the right thing and still pursue that, regardless if the public shows up or not. So thank you.
Thank you,
Great
Christy.
comment. Thank you.
Anyone else? No other public comment then? Okay.
Without public comment, I'd like to make a brief statement. Our form of government is one of the best in the world because we believe in the rule of law. And that means that the rule of law protects our friends and it protects our enemies or those who disagree with us. Let me put it that way. This agenda item came up. It was fairly narrow. It was narrow to the point of, let's see if there was some policies in the county that were violated, and the policies or procedures when it came to the leaking of documents. And last week, when all three of us were talking about this and trying to figure out what was going on, we did not know. It warranted, and you saw all three of us thinking, okay, we need more information. And how do we get more information? We can only do that either by ourselves or we do that with somebody else asking those questions. Well, it did not proceed forward to have somebody else do that. And so we were left on our own as commissioners, to seek out what we can find. And what was found was that this narrow scope, going back to our procedures and our rule of law, this narrow scope that we have, that we were looking at in the way of if there was something that was violated, was found to not even be, it all fell apart. It fell apart because these documents that was the focus had been out there for at least 2 years. So it's no longer, how can you leak something that has been out in the public realm for at least 2 years? It's not a leakable matter when it's been out like that. So for us, once we have that information and we conferred and talked about it, and if anybody wants to find that themselves, you can just go ask Provo City. They're the ones that house the documents. And they'll probably give you all the information that you need. And when it comes to who asked for these documents and when did they ask for these documents, so you can verify it on your own. So with that being the crux of the whole possible investigation, into that for county purposes, it didn't warrant for us to move forward. Now, the second questions that you're talking about, what about other things? Well, again, what we don't know, we don't know. So to Christie's point, we felt it very needed and necessary to leave it open, because if something does come up to the point to where there needs to be more information given to us or an investigation, we are very open to looking at that and seeing what is needed and necessary so that we can go forward and find whatever it comes, if it comes up. But believe me when I say this, we are told as commissioners all kinds of stuff at times. Not everything that's told to us do we actually go out and do an investigation with. It has to come to a level to where we feel, all three of us, or at least two of us, feel like it warrants us to move forward. And so with that, this one here, in the way of the documents themselves, the bottom fell out from underneath it because it's been out there for so long. And we found that out just this last week, through our own little investigation on what's going on. And that was the crux of putting it on there. So if there's something else that is coming up that's different, we invite that information to come forward like we would at any time.
I'm good. I think Commissioner Lee and you both spoke very well.
With that, comment or observation, we have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned.
Thank you.